In the 1400s, basically everything was punishable by death. Stole some bread? Death. Spoke poorly of the royal family? Death. Can you imagine that now? The comment, "Without me, Trump would have lost the election," would result in Elon Musk disappearing the next day. The offence is the same 600 years later. It's the context and our reaction that's changed. An individual's personal motivations drive behaviours that compromise moral decisions, ultimately revealing imperfections in their character. While this drive, the unstoppable drive, the irresistible force, remains constant throughout time, the audience's perceptions of these values change depending on the differing context of which they are viewed. This aligns to an extent with the idea that the true hero is flawed, which creates interest in an audience because we too are flawed. King Henry V ruled England 600 years ago. As a tribute to his successors, in 1959, William Shakespeare wrote his historical play, Henry V, based off, can you guess? Yep, that's right, Henry V's life. Shakespeare has always been known for his creative titles. However, there was a pretty big succession problem at the time. Doubt and anxiety about the next ruler was spreading like a wildfire. So, Shakespeare wrote the play to put people at ease. He knew that the country needed a leader with no flaws. Remember how I mentioned the context and how it impacts the audience?
Context.
That's relevant now. Henry exploits his power to appear as a strong leader in Act 2, Scene 2, line 171. But we, our kingdom's safety, must so tender. Personification in the word tender implies that the kingdom is something needed to be taken great care of, like a human, proving that Henry V is a good leader who puts his duties first. This relatability and display of empathy gets off track when just 3 lines later, in line 174, he orders multiple traitors to be executed. Poor miserable wretches to your death. His excessive need for control in the situation is emphasized through the hyperbole of poor miserable wretches, paired with the juxtaposition of to your death, which creates a feeling of humor and insensitivity in the clearly sensitive situation. Although this exploitation of power and need for control in the situation reveals clear flaws in his morals, it is overlooked by the audience who needs a strong leader, linking back to Shakespeare's intentions to create a flawless leader, willing to stand up for their country. So, Henry V is still seen in a positive light. His flaws aren't enough to change the way that he is viewed. His flaws are uninteresting to the audience at the time. Christopher Nolan's film, not Oppenheimer, not Interstellar, Batman, The Dark Knight, is widely interpreted as a response to the 9/11 attacks. From this, we can understand that the film depicts the similar themes of chaos and destruction from this context. Batman displays similar motivations to Henry V, such as the need for power and control in a situation, but is seen to be less of a hero due to the audience response in much more modern times. This can be seen in the Joker interrogation, where Batman uses the same excessive force and exploitation of power as Henry V, but police rush to try and stop Batman and intercept the interrogation. The unstable camera movement and abstract camera angles, paired with the increasing volume of the high-pitched, instrumental, non-diegetic sound in the scene, evokes panic and fear over Batman's power in a rapidly escalating commotion. This paints him to be less of a hero and instead a dangerous threat capable of violence to his society. Does this remind you of Henry V? He killed 3 people. Batman just showed signs of aggression, but the audience reaction was much more extreme. This is supporting that the moral flaws Batman displays are taken much more heavily in the shaken audience, making him out to be less of a hero. This can also be seen in the scene where Batman throws a mobster off a building, breaking his legs. Batman uses excessive violence, like Henry V does, but through the diegetic sound of the scream and the clear sound of the bones breaking, evoking sympathy for the mobster, Batman is seen in a poor light. Who would do such a thing? This again comes down to the audience, who are sensitive and shaken following the 9/11 attacks. And violence in an individual just isn't enough to name them a hero. Batman's flaws are interesting to his society, which changes their perception of him. more so than the audience, us, who knows the real reasons behind his villain-like actions. Do you know Machiavelli? Probably not, no one does. He was a strong and manipulative leader, well known for saying things like, the ends justify the means, basically saying you can do what you want if you achieve what you want. Sound familiar? Henry V and Batman display clear Machiavellian traits. Traits such as manipulation, destructive but strategic thinking, and justifying the means of the ends. These traits drive behaviours, revealing some pretty clear flaws. Some ignored, others scrutinised. A monologue in Act 3, Scene 4 of Henry V, spanning across 43 lines, evokes powerful negative emotions in the audience Henry is addressing. Henry goes on to explain in vivid detail what will happen if the French don't surrender. The sibilance in line 35, "Defile the locks of your shrill shrieking daughters," adds to the horror and the suffering through the evil connotations of the repetition of S. This, paired with the visual imagery of spitted upon pikes in line 38, "Your naked infants spitted upon pikes," further emphasizes the brutality and how he has gone too far through the vivid visual detail, clearly demonstrating how Henry V is breaking moral boundaries. Flaws are revealed on Henry V's part, but the audience persists, taking his side. The audience needed a hero, so the flaws are of no interest to them. Once again, the same flaws are seen through Batman. In the scene named Too Much Power, Batman is shown to reveal his newfound technology to spy on Gotham. The low lighting on Batman symbolizes how he has lost himself in his motivations, paired with the oxymoron in beautiful, unethical, dangerous, suggesting Batman is seen to have crossed that moral line he was verging on. This is the point where his flaws are really exposed. Even though Batman did the same as Henry, went too far, broke moral boundaries, all for personal motivation, Batman is frowned upon. These flaws are very interesting to the audience and are used to paint Batman to be less of a hero. So, a quick summary for those that zoned out, which I know you did. Batman and Henry are both flawed. This is seen through their use of excessive force, exploitation of power and control, Machiavellian traits such as brutality and breach of trust, all contributing to breaking their moral codes. Because of the context of these texts, the audience takes great interest in Batman's flaws, making them think less of him as a hero. However, the audience of Henry V choose to ignore his flaws and side with him because they craved a flawless king.